do you even still like me? You know, or are we even still like doing this? Like there's not that understanding on where we are, or that this is just a phase in our relationship.
Yeah.
The worst part of it all is those relationships can sometimes fail. And it's not that it couldn't last, but I think it's because we're so unaware of what to expect that when it's happening, you start to blame one another instead of realizing that this is just the season we're in right now, but there's light at the end of the tunnel.
It's not a forever thing.
Right. It's not a forever thing.
It's a phase.
Right. And I feel like a lot of couples go into it and they start to think that like the other person is changing, or the other person is not doing a great job, or not hearing them out, or not understanding them, or whatever it may be. But the point is, they don't understand that it's just a season. Welcome to the Noir Poise podcast, where wisdom is power is more than just a motto.
It's our way of life.
So y'all remember when we did the childbirth series and we went through the different stages of childbirth? And in the last episode, we kind of touched a little bit on all the chaos that happens after the baby actually comes out. And then it made us realize how while childbirth is 3 stages, there definitely is another part that I feel like we don't talk about enough, or at least I think most people are aware of it, but it's not talked about unless a woman then expresses her experience with postpartum depression. But we don't talk about what happens after the baby actually arrives, and the chaos and, you know, all the things that happens within the first couple months. So honestly, actually within the first few years of that child's life, because your life is literally turned upside down and what you're used to is not what it is anymore. And we said we would do this episode because we feel like it's an important topic to talk about, because now that I'm encountering a lot of new moms and they're expressing a lot more, I've come to realize that a lot of women and men go through this season without having anyone to talk to, without understanding what's actually happening. And the worst part of it all is those relationships can sometimes fail. And it's not that it couldn't last, but I think it's because we're so unaware of what to expect that when it's happening, you start to blame one another instead of realizing that this is just the season we're in right now, but there's light at the end of the tunnel.
It's not a forever thing.
Right. It's not a forever thing.
It's a phase.
Right. And I feel like a lot of couples go into it and they start to think that like the other person is changing, or the other person is not doing a great job, or not hearing them out, or not understanding them, or whatever it may be. But the point is, they don't understand that it's just a season. And like anything in life, there are seasons. Bringing a new baby home is a seasonal change that is going to hit you hard, especially if you don't have the support. So,
especially I would say the first time.
The first time. You know what? Honestly,
The back and forth.
At first I was like, yeah, you're right. But then there's a part of me that's like, every single time I think causes a different set of chaos, because the first time, you have no idea what to expect when it comes to the baby because you haven't been a parent yet. So everything is brand new to you. The second time around, I think it's still chaotic. It's just not the same type of chaos, but I've heard of couples going through it in that season too, because going from 1 to 2 and then going from 2 to 3, I feel like there's always something.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it won't happen the second time or the third time or whatever, but the first time, the shock value is there.
I see.
It's your first time experiencing it, and at least
you're like, what the hell is this?
And at least for the second time, even though it's not exactly the same, you have some kind of idea. Like you could put your foot down and say, I will be better prepared to brace for impact this time around.
Right. That's a good point. So with that said, I looked up some stats because I didn't want to have this conversation based off of my personal experience or what I hear from people I know or see or whatever the case is. I wanted to see like, what are the actual numbers, right? And I did like just a rough stat search, whatever. And it's not specific to the United States. So this is just a general study. And it said that 20% of relationships usually don't make it past the first year after bringing home 20%. A child. 20%. And while it's 20% for that, it said 67% of relationships admit that there was a tremendous decline within their relationship after bringing home a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was interesting. I was like, okay, so this confirms what it seems like.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we don't talk about it. Nonetheless, I feel like certain experiences in life, you won't know until you get there. Mm-hmm. But if we pinpoint specific things to expect, maybe it'll give people an idea of what to like communicate on prior to even deciding to go into that. Because I think everyone thinks of like having children. They're like, yeah, I want to, I want to continue the legacy. I want to be able to like bring a child into the world and raise them. Oh, I always wanted to be a mom. I can't wait to be a dad. Like a lot of the reasons why we want children is often selfish if you really think about it.
It's to focus on the positives.
It's it's to focus on the positive. But I seen something, an interview with Oprah years ago where she was interviewing a guest, and the guest was basically saying how we have children out of selfishness. And I thought about that. I was like, no. And then I asked myself, this was before we had children. I was like, why do you want to become a mom? And my answer was, I was meant to be a mom. I always wanted to be a mom. Mm-hmm. And I was like, but how is that about the child? It's always about us. Mm. We always make decisions to have children because it's about us, whether it's we want to continue legacy or we want to see our offsprings or we want to make a family because we love each other. We would love to see our kids, or we want grandchildren down the line, or you know what I mean? Yeah. It's never really about anything else but self if you really think about it. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, I wonder if that's partly why it becomes so difficult, because it's just not what you expect it to be. Like you said, we focus on the positives, but any parent who's out there, you know that nonetheless, the positives are amazing. I always say the positives always outweigh the negatives. Mm-hmm. But if you tell me there's no negatives, you're lying. You're a liar. You're a liar, okay? Because we all know that on a regular basis, it's chaos. It's figuring it out. It's struggling, trying to get there. It's emotional breakdowns.
Something new every day.
Every minute, okay? And this is like, if we think of the newborn phase, because I think of it now and I'm just like, yo, when you're in the newborn phase, you think like, damn, when does it get better? When do I sleep? Never. Now that I'm a mother of a preschooler practically and a baby, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't get better. You know what gets better? Your perspective on the situation, but it doesn't get easier.
I had a parent tell me that one time where he had teenagers and he said, one problem ends and another starts.
Basically.
Like you're just consistently
going through different
adapting to
stages.
different things. Yeah.
Yes. And that's what I'm finding in my little measly couple years. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's what I'm finding is that it doesn't get better. When you're in the newborn phase, you're just like, dang, I'm not sleeping. But I think back and I'm like, yo, the newborn phase is the easiest part. Mm-hmm. And it's not to scare y'all. Mm-hmm. But in my opinion, it's the easiest part because what is that baby doing? Yeah, you don't sleep. But that's really the issue. You don't sleep. You're running on E, right? But they poop, they eat, they sleep. They poop, they eat, they sleep. It's amazing.
I guess it's perspective because I've heard parents say both where, man, I can't wait for this baby to walk so that I don't have to hold this baby all day long. And then when the baby's walking, it's like, man, I wish you just sit still and stay somewhere. So it could be perspective. And I think the disconnect between couples occur when we don't manage our expectations. Our expectations are not aligned. And that's not to say if you have aligned expectations, all will be smooth.
Yeah. But
I think that from a man's point of view, you don't fully understand how much the female body is changing during that time. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say this nicely, but there's going to be a period of time where you won't feel like a couple. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the hard truth that a lot of people
feel like a couple. In other words, like you enter that weird roommate stage, right? Where it's like, okay, we're just getting the work done.
We're just trying to survive.
We're teammates. Yeah. I think that's definitely true. Because things just got to get done. Whether it's like you're going to work, so you're like alternating work schedules, or you're alternating house chores, but there is a phase where it's just like, we just got to get this done. Like there's hardly any, especially if you don't have support, there's hardly any time to actually be like, I'm gonna spend time with my man. We just
Yeah.
gonna let like those phases don't really happen unless you work extremely hard to make them happen and you have the support in order for that to happen. But for the most part, for millennial parents right now, if you don't have a team or village helping you out, it's on that like, all right, when I'm with the kid, you're doing your thing. When you're with the kid, I'm doing my thing. There's never really like a it's me and you without the kid situation. And I think that along with a lot of other factors puts a strain on the relationship. And because people go in it not expecting or knowing that that may happen, it then makes you look at the other person like, do you even still like me? Or are we even still like doing this? Like there's not that understanding on where we are or that this is just a phase in our relationship.
Yeah.
For a long time, I was like, it's the hormones. It's the hormones. It's the hormones and the fact that men don't go through it, so they don't understand. And they've never seen their significant other in this particular phase. So because the hormones is affecting the woman so much, because it is, it affects your mind, it affects your mood, it affects your body, your diet, it affects everything. So your tolerance may not be the same, or maybe you distance yourself. Like there's so many things that may happen in that postpartum phase. And then on top of it, you're healing. Your body is healing itself. So you can't move and do the same things that you used to do right away. And in society today, a lot of us have to do what we were doing right away because there's no village or you got to go back to work. So women are having to do more now than it used to be. And I think that can also build on the frustration and the draining that happens. And sometimes you take it out on your spouse and you don't realize it, right? You're a little bit more short. And I'm sure with the guy, they're feeling the fatigue as well because men these days, shout out to y'all millennial dads, they step in. You guys change diapers. You guys watch the kid alone. You guys are trying to figure out meals as well. Like millennial dads really are doing a dope job at being active as much as they can so that women can still go out and have careers. And a lot of us, at least the people that I know, are doing it without significant villages, right? Some people don't have moms to come in. Some people have to pay for nannies. So now you're paying an additional mortgage at that point to have a nanny come in every day so you guys can actually go out of the home and bring home the bag, right?
Yeah.
So I think all of those things tied in with lack of sleep, your body's running on E, it can cause little frustrations and doesn't give adequate time for you guys to have longer conversations to understand where each other's coming from.
You're overwhelmed, you're exhausted, and you're not communicating. That's a recipe for
disaster.
For disaster.
Right. So I think when you don't have an understanding that like this is where we're at and we both know we want to make it work and we want to be together, that's where the conflict can arise and it can become a little toxic, honestly, because you start to take things out on each other without realizing it. But I always thought it was the hormones. And I was reading a study that was done by the NIH that did a study on different type of couples from different ethnicities, from different type of pregnancy techniques. And the results were kind of similar. Every couple experienced a decline. But this is the part that interested me because I thought it was gender, right? Men don't understand women and the hormones, and you were pregnant, so you don't get it. But they also tested lesbian couples who got pregnant through IVF, right? So you're like, okay, so you would assume that there would be more of an understanding there. But there wasn't. Yeah, there was still a decline in their relationships as well. So I was like, so while the hormones, I'm sure, is a factor, because even if it's two women, if I'm hormonal and the next woman's not, I may be spazzing and the next woman's not. Or there's still a lack of understanding there. But the fact that there's still a decline, despite the fact that other women have a better understanding, tells me that it's more than that. It's more than that. That happens within the first couple years of parenthood. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering if it's just because you don't have the time anymore. You lose time.
Yeah. And I remember there was one time you told me that just because a woman's hormonal doesn't mean that what she's saying isn't true.
Yeah.
So it could be that.
I mean, I don't know if that's for everybody. That was just speaking from my experience myself.
So it could be that even in these same sex relationships where the hormones are just making things come out more, and that the other partner maybe wasn't prepared to deal with, or maybe felt
Maybe.
a type of way. Because I think that's one of the key issues is, yeah, you're exhausted, yeah, you're overwhelmed, and yeah, you're not communicating. But during this time period, personal things arise that could be taken out of context, or that could be said that's hurtful. Maybe
Yeah.
a father might look at the mother and say, "My mom did this. Why can't you do that?" And ordinarily, without the hormones or without the child, that wouldn't maybe have been a big deal. But because of the environment, that could possibly strain things even more or become more exacerbated, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. It actually makes me wonder if we hold our tongue, you know what I mean? When we're not going through this phase, because you're so like short and there isn't that time to have like a understanding and gentle conversation about certain things.
Yeah.
It comes out in more of an aggressive way. Maybe, I
Yeah,
don't
I can
know.
see that.
So it makes me wonder if we often brush things off that should be addressed. Because now that I'm thinking about it, right, I had a conversation with someone who felt a type of way towards their significant other, and they said something, but they said they always knew the person was like this. It's just more frustrating to see that the person hasn't changed in this season. So it makes me wonder if it's that we're brushing issues that we always had, but we didn't see it as large enough to have a conversation about. So now I feel like we should be saying every little thing we feel, right? So now I wonder that if that's what it is, where it's like, well, let's say it's a situation where like there's a couple and I don't know, the man never picks up his dish off the table, right? It's something that he never does it. The woman notices that and she's like, he never pick up his dish off the table, but whatever, it's not a big deal, because why are we arguing about that, right?
Yeah.
You could say to the person, if they continue to not do it, you're not going to end your marriage off of someone not picking a dish off the table. So she continues to pick up the dishes for him off the table after he eats, whatever, right? She washed all the dishes, no big deal. And now she's postpartum. So now that minor issue that she's always had an issue with, it's always been somewhat of a conflict, but not enough to argue about. Now you losing sleep. You spending all day with a newborn baby and your husband has to go back to work and he's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not going to feel the same way.
Yeah, because now it's gonna look like you see all
you're
that
taking
I'm doing,
advantage.
you can't even do
Right.
this. Yeah.
So I wonder if that's what it is. I wonder if the issues that arise in the postpartum phase have always been there and we just ignore them.
Yeah, that's a good point. I could definitely see that.
Right?
And that's why it's probably more personal, because I can imagine, just playing into your story, if this is a loving husband, maybe he got up to do something else and he intended on
picking it up, but he didn't right away.
And he didn't right away. And now she says something and he's feeling a type of way because he's saying, I got up to do X, Y, and Z, though. You couldn't just wait or something. And that's when it becomes personal. That's a good point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of unmet, I don't even know how to term it, but undiagnosed.
I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Hopefully y'all know what he's trying to say. But the more I'm talking about it, the more I feel like that's what it is. Because I'm trying to think of like all the little things that may arise in the postpartum phase, right? Because especially in that phase, you expect, whether the woman says it or not, she expects the man to step in more than he did before. So even if it was a situation where you both handled house chores, you both cleaned and cooked or whatever the case is, let's say now you're postpartum. Because you're postpartum, I'm sure the woman expects the man to do more than he was doing before. So maybe he's not doing more. And she's like, why wouldn't you do more in this season? You know what I'm going through, kind of thing. And then even saying that, we always have an expectation of what the other person should assume about how we're feeling, right? Like in postpartum, you don't say much, but you assume that the man is supposed to be like 10,000 times more gentle and 10,000 times more patient and have 10,000 times more grace. And the reality is, not every man is going to look at that and do that all the time. Now, there are some that pay attention and will do it, but some won't, and you have to communicate it. And I think sometimes in that phase, if I'm completely honest, if I'm thinking of like women on a general scale, you don't want to have to say it. You know what I mean? Like if I just had a C-section, I don't want to have to tell you to please come help me off this bed. I just want you to know, like, bro, come help me off this bed. Now, that's wrong because we're adults, we should communicate it. But I'm just thinking of it like, how are people in these situations dealing with things or communicating things? They're
Right.
probably not, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're probably not. And like you said, I think both sides make error of assuming that the other person sees and the other person knows, completely disregarding that they have their own life,
thing.
their own perspective.
Yeah.
And it's never going to be perfect. Like your spouse is going to do something to get on your nerve, and that doesn't mean that
They don't care.
or that
Right.
they're a bad person. Because I think
Right.
sometimes that's the label that people feel is being placed on them. You're being a bad spouse. You're being a bad husband. You're being a bad wife. And we don't stop to address that. No, these are still human beings. You know, tensions are
figuring
high.
it out at
Right.
that, like they've never done it before, so they're figuring it out just like you're figuring it out. So the assumptions never work out. Yeah, assuming never works out in any way. Another thing I notice is that mothers tend to feel the decline within the relationship almost immediately, and fathers don't usually feel it until 6 to 15 months after the fact. Now, this is just my brain thinking. I feel like mothers would feel it immediately because hormones. That's one. And two, if we're completely honest, the strain is usually, or the pressure is usually on the mom more in the beginning stages, especially if you're a breastfeeding mom. If it's a situation, if you're only breastfeeding and dad's not doing any bottles, then you're losing all the sleep at night. That's just the reality. So I wonder if it's because her body's taking more of a toll and it's healing from the pregnancy that she's feeling it quicker. And women set the tone in the home sometimes. So I wonder if it's because she feels it early on, she starts to move and act differently that then creates an atmosphere that leads the man into feeling it too.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a thing, or if it's a situation where she, again, had certain expectations from him and he's not doing what she expected. You know what I mean? And then there's also some jobs don't give men an actual leave. Some of them are only home for 2 weeks and then the mom is left for the rest of the time with the baby alone. So she's handling more of the load when it comes to the parenting. You know what I mean? So I wonder if that's why mothers are feeling it quicker and men are starting to feel it later because maybe they're realizing the disconnect and distance from the mom.
Yeah, I would definitely say that the mother is the epicenter. She's the one that's going through it. Really, the baby's just being taken care of, you know?
Right.
So it's really the mother that's the epicenter of the change. And I could definitely understand why there's a delay between mothers and fathers. Fathers are not exposed as much, you know, so it probably takes that much time for the fathers to fully realize, or maybe even fully, I don't want to say give up, but take in the truth like, oh, things are different
bad,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, things are bad now.
Yeah.
Because from speaking to different fathers, our mindset is,
I need more money.
Yeah, I need more money.
I've heard that so many times. I'm like, yeah, you do, but
I
there
need
are
more
other
money.
things
I
too.
need to make sure that I'm a provider. There's a woman who posted a video about how hard motherhood is. And one of the top comments was a man saying that essentially women need to just toughen up because God made you to deal with this. I didn't say it. I didn't say it. And I understood what he was coming from, because if you're not exposed to the process of motherhood and pregnancy, you're going to believe that. You're going to believe that this is what's been happening since the beginning of time. Like, you're equipped to that. It wasn't until we started having these conversations and I started to do my own research that I realized, oh, wow, it's not all over when the baby comes out. You know, like, it actually gets worse when the baby comes out. I didn't understand that. So a lot of men have that thinking like, oh, no, she's home with the baby. This is what moms do. This is what women are equipped to do. So all is well. Wait, hold on.
I actually want to respond to that comment.
Yeah, you're going to.
I know it's not you, but I'm going to
Yeah.
respond because I'm sure there are people that are listening that may have that same thinking. And
But
I want to, okay,
let me just finish this first.
Go ahead.
Because a lot of men have that, innocently have that thinking. It's not like they
It's understandable.
innocently have that thinking. And I don't think it hits them until some time goes by and they realize like, oh, this is actually a longer term thing, or this is actually a bigger deal than I thought it was.
Yeah.
You may respond now.
Oh, okay. I was waiting. So to address that comment, because I've heard that before, I think it's unfortunate, but it is what society has taught us to believe. Like, men provide and protect, and the woman, you nurture and you take care of these children. But what a lot of people don't stop to think is that we weren't meant to do it alone. Okay? In modern society now, specifically in America, it is expected for women to do it alone and go to work and provide as well. So I think it's unfair to have that thinking when times have changed. It wasn't even fair to have that thinking if it was like 1850, if we're completely honest, because the saying "it takes a village" didn't come from nowhere. It came from truth. It came from experience, because it literally takes a village. So if you're in a predicament where the man has to go to work to provide, respect it. That's his job, right? So he's toughening up to do that, right? But at the same time, a woman is in that situation now is up around the clock all day, every day. There's no time to rest if she doesn't have adequate support. And that's what people don't understand about motherhood is, and I've tell you this all the time, it's not even just a physical part. Physically, it's hard, right? Especially if you're not sleeping, you have to care for these children. You cannot operate on no sleep. Like, do the research. Science proves it. It's worse. Okay, how about this? If you look at the back of a Benadryl, that joint says, do not operate a vehicle when you take this medication. Why? Because it makes you drowsy, okay? So that drowsy state is where a mother is every day, all day, for months at a time when she's taking care of that kid, if she's doing it with no assistance. So in a space where she's doing it and let's say the father is not helping and picking up the night shift as well, she's operating life in that state of drowsiness consistently. Even if she is taking on the task with strength as a human being, you literally cannot do it. And that's why it takes a village. It takes grandmothers and aunts and cousins and friends and fellow mothers to step in and be a village for that woman. But unfortunately, we don't have that on a regular basis in America. Women have to pay for that village. And the reality is there are a lot of women who can't afford to pay for that village. So what happens? She is literally deteriorating. I saw a video that my sister sent me, and it was about flamingos. Flamingos, if you know them, they have beautiful, vibrant pink colors, but you'll often find some of them are pale and they look white. They don't have their colors, right? And the gentleman was explaining how the reason why the ones who don't have their colors, it's because they're mothers. They were basically explaining how, like, it's the only animal that shows physically the strain that motherhood takes on the body, that the moms literally don't produce the pink anymore because they're giving their all to their children, to care for their children. That's a very good explanation to respond to the men who have that thinking that the gentleman said in the comment, because I understand that it comes from a space of, like, I mean, you've seen your mom probably do it, you've seen your aunts do it, so to you, you consider this to be normal. But you also have to understand that the generation before us, a lot of them, and I always say this, look at them now. A lot of them are dealing with a lot of health issues. They look twice the age of their husbands. They're not in good condition. There's a reason for that. It's because the stress that they have taken on their whole lives in mothering is now showing in the physical. So I don't think it's fair to think that, like, women should toughen up to do this, because we were never meant to do it alone. The fact that you believe that is the lie that modern society has taught you to believe, that women are meant to do this mothering thing alone. Children were meant to be raised by villages. That's why they're supposed to be grandparents, and they're supposed to be aunts, and they're supposed to be fellow mothers. It's supposed to take a village. And I think, unfortunately, that's why, well, not unfortunately, but I think that's why now men are having to do a lot of these nurturing tasks, because we can't do it alone.
Yeah.
We literally can't do it alone. So now men are changing diapers. Men are helping with the cooking. Men are cleaning the house as well, because we're expected to do it alone and still work, because the man can't afford the bills on his own because the economy is trash.
Not only that, too, I would add that,
like,
equipped doesn't mean easy. I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong, where a woman, yes, she is equipped to do whatever it is that to be a mother.
Yeah.
She's equipped to do that. But men think that, some men, immature men, I'm
yeah, because I don't
well,
think it's all men at
or
all.
inexperienced men think that because you're equipped to do something, it's going to come natural, it's going to come easy. That's not the case at all. And I think if men have that understanding, it will definitely make a big difference. That the woman is not, she needs help.
Yeah.
And more than she needs help, she needs support. The baby needs support. You're
I think
going
it's
to
a
have
support
to
aspect for sure.
find a way to be a village for her.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you have this thinking and you're the type of man that expects her to help out with the bills too. You know, like if you expect her to help out with the bills, then you have to expect to help her out with the other tasks too. She can't do it alone. And I think that's what it boils down to. In the postpartum phase, if the people in the relationship understand that this is a season and we're teammates and we're operating as team players in this season, I strongly believe that you'll make it through, especially if you want to make it through. Like if you want to work something out, you're going to work it out. But the reality is I think some people don't know what to expect and they go in expecting the other person to do more than they do. The man may think the woman's supposed to, that's your job. You change that. I don't do that. Like you're the woman, you do more. The baby needs you. And the woman goes in thinking he's going to help and assist more. He's going to pick up some night shifts. He's going to wash the bottles. Y'all know some men know not to wash the bottles. And I got this good man right here.
I've never heard of a man not washing bottles.
You know, there's men that don't wash bottles because it doesn't cross their mind. Like just like there's different type of women, there's different type of men with different type of thinking. We do know. But that's the beauty of surrounding yourself with the right individuals, because if you happen to be someone who thought like that, if you saw examples of men who wash bottles, you'd be like, oh, I guess that's my task. And I think we need to start presenting society with the men that are helping their women, that are proud to help their women too. Like it's a good thing to be able to be like, yeah, I wash all the bottles. I make sure the breast pump machine is clean and ready for her. So that way when she has to pump, there's, the pump is clean. I make sure there's snacks near the bed because breastfeeding makes you hungry. Breastfeeding makes you hungry. I don't know how many times I got to say that, but it makes you hungry. I eat like a pig. Okay.
I want to add too, because I don't want people to have the misconception that if you have the money, you can, or if you have the village, then all is well. Or if you have the money to buy the village, all is well too. Yeah. Because money or not, money does make things easier. Let me not.
Sure does.
Let me not.
Sure does.
Give a false perception. But at the end of the day, is the trenches. Because you and your spouse are experiencing something completely new. Yeah. So whether you have money, whether you have a village or not, you have to ensure that you understand you're in the trenches and your relationship will look different. Yeah. Your communication may be different. So if you're able to endure that and adapt around that, then I think you'll not just survive, but you'll come off better.
Yeah, I think the key word for me in that is adaptation. Like you have to be able to adapt. Like your relationship may not look the same way that it did prior to children, but that doesn't mean it can't get there or even somewhere better after the fact. I think it's understanding where you are and making a promise that despite whatever happens, we're going to work through it together. We're going to communicate through it as best as we can. And we know that the intention of the other person is not to harm us. Like sometimes people really just don't know. Like moms and dads out here really just don't know. So you're operating in a space of, irritation, and you don't know that you may be hurting your significant other by what you're saying. So I think understanding that in that season, you got to give each other grace. There was a little bit of advice that I saw online, and I'm sure you'll find like 1,000,001 things, but the few that I saw that resonate with me and I think has been helpful was lowering expectations. And for me, that meant lowering expectations, not necessarily from you, but from myself, and from how my house appears, because I like my house to appear type of way. But obviously in the postpartum phase, you can't do everything. So priorities have to be shifted. So rather than assuming or wanting you to step in to do the things that I usually do, I then decided that like, it's okay. If this doesn't happen, fine. Like then I tell you, if the laundry piles up, I was like, listen, the laundry hasn't been folded for about 5 days now. And I'm like, my priorities are shifting in order to have more grace on myself. Because what I realized is I can't have grace on you if I can't have grace on myself too. And I think that's important for the parents on both sides. If you can't have grace on yourself, at least in my experience, it's going to be even harder to have grace on your significant other. So not having the expectations that whatever I can't do, you must do, but having the communication to know that, okay, these are the things we would like to do, but if we both don't have time to do it, then that's okay. Our priorities are shifting. As long as everyone's healthy, everyone's eating, everyone's happy, that's the main focus. And everything else, listen, we'll get to it when we get to it. That's one for me. And two, I would say small gestures. Small gestures align with intentional gestures to rebuild intimacy, because obviously during the postpartum phase, you're so caught up in the day-to-day like tasks and the chaos that you don't really find time as easily to spend with your significant other. And what that looks like for me is it could be something that you implemented actually this second time around with at the end of the night, even if it's like 3 to 5 minutes, we just designate 3 to 5 minutes to have a conversation where it's just us two. And what started off as 3 to 5 minutes in the beginning stages of postpartum ended up being 10 to 15 and then a little longer. And I think creating that habit forces you to spend time with the significant other, because I think the reason why we get into the roommate phase is because we start spending less time with each other. It's a family thing. We're together, but it's always us and the kids. It's never just us. It can easily get there where it's not just us. And I understand that reality, life be life. And so some people don't have the time to be like, I'm going on a date. Some people don't have the time or the funds to be like, I'm going on a weekend trip. So finding ways to incorporate that time with each other, even if it's 3 to 5 minutes, you'd be surprised how much 3 to 5 minutes will help. And also with the small gestures, like doing things for each other that lets the other person know, like, I'm thinking of you. So like you used to put water. I told y'all he's the water man.
Oh, I'm the water boy.
The water boy. That has become your task to the point it got to the point where when there was no water, I was just like, he forgot to get water. But it sounds silly, but something as small as that, like I wake up in the middle of the night and there's a bottle of water on the nightstand, because breastfeeding, you got to stay hydrated. So the fact that you thought to do that, and other gestures too, but I'm just using that as an example, is like, it can be the smallest thing, but just knowing that the person is thinking about you makes you feel special. It's just like, all right, we're not roommates. This is my husband. This is my wife. And we're just going through this phase, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to be okay. You're going to go through the chaos together. I remember in the movie This Is 40, where they actually left the kids for a weekend and they went on a trip, and it was like, it was them. We don't actually hate each other. Sometimes you need that awakening that like, oh, it's not that we're not feeling the same way. It's just we're so caught up in being parents that we lose sight of being in a relationship with each other. So the small gestures help. It's like a reminder, like, I'm thinking of you, and whatever that may look like for everyone. But small gestures are very important. And third, this is just like a relationship standard. Knowing how to argue. When I tell y'all that's a game changer, when you learn how to argue, there's no reason y'all need to be raising y'all voices, calling each other names, none of that. Like, we don't argue. And that to me is such a blessing, but it's because we learned how to argue, right? In the beginning of relationships, a lot of times, especially during postpartum, I can assume people are like so frustrated that your tone of voice may be used in a way that's offensive to the other person, or you may use certain words that's offensive to the other person. But learning how to argue, learning how to have the conversation without it becoming, a yelling match. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Insults being thrown around.
Yeah. Because they're never going to forget it. That's what you'll find, that especially during the postpartum and pregnancy phase, whatever your husband tell you or your spouse tell you, you are not forgetting that thing. You do not forget who hurt you and who did you wrong. So be careful with your words and how you argue with one another. Those were the three for me.
I would say I always try to go back to the biological, because that's how we're wired.
Yeah.
When you're in a situation like that, the trenches, you're in survival mode. And I think the issue is men are thinking about their own survival biologically, and women are thinking about their own survival. The key here is to think about couple survivalship. So if you could just think about that, I think it will definitely change things around, where you're not trying to save yourself. You're not trying to save your spouse. You're trying to save your relationship. Right. And that is a great foundation.
Yeah, them kids gonna leave y'all. You heard it here. They're going to leave y'all one day. It's going to be y'all too. Make sure you like that person.
Yeah.
Because when you stuck with them, you don't want to be one of those people who end up in a roommate relationship for years and then down the line they leave when they're adults and you realize you get on my nerves. Because I've seen that too, where you look at the couples and you're just like, they're not a fan of each other, you know? Yeah. So it's very important to kind of remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Love that.
And we're out. Thank you for spending your time with us. We hope you gained some knowledge today that'll promote poise in your life. We have new episodes uploaded every Thursday right here, same place, same time. Until next time, you can follow us on Instagram at Noir Poise Podcast to stay connected. That's NOIRPOISED Podcast. We'd love to hear your feedback.
And remember, your wisdom is power.